All right, welcome to video 2 of 2 on our Aviom usage. So this has been a video that I've been meaning to make for quite a while because I get a lot of questions about how do I mix my Aviom. So if you have not seen video 1 and you're looking for like the basics of all of the controls and how to use this, go check out the first video. I explain how all the buttons work and what all of the things mean. This one's going to be a little bit more some philosophy or tips and tricks on getting a good in-ear mix. Some of this is going to be a little bit arbitrary because there is some opinion involved in this, but there are some things that I've seen that we do that are really hindering us from getting a good mix, and I think it's making it difficult for us to hear ourselves and to sing well and play well and all of those kinds of things. So first thing is a review from video 1, but what I would suggest that we start doing is to recall a starting point on the Aviom. So I have saved on the dump channel a setting that has everything audible, but it's all turned down quite a bit. That does two things. It protects you when you plug in from something being super loud, and it helps you not play the game of like keep turning things up to hear what you need to hear instead of turning some things down to get them out of the way because you don't need to hear them. So rule of thumb, recall, dump. Now you're in a good starting place. Still maybe turn your master down a little bit before you plug in and then bump that up to 50%. The next thing that I like to do is get myself, so whether that is me playing an electric guitar, drums, or I'm a vocalist, I like to make sure that I've got myself loud enough that I have some headroom, so I have room to turn it up, but I'm in a good starting point and get my master volume set accordingly. So if, for example, if I was the vocalist leading this song, this is going to be Goodness of God, and Deb is singing this. If I am the vocalist, I would want to check my microphone and make sure I've got plenty of volume in my head. So getting started here. Okay, so then I'd get myself set.
For your mercy never fails me.
Okay, so that feels loud enough to me. This is a little bit arbitrary because I'm recording it through the Aviom, so I can't totally tell how loud it is in the recording. But we'll say here I'm about 50%. We go about 75%. We're at 50% volume here. Okay, so now I would start to mix in the things that I need to hear in order to sing appropriately. So you'd really have to do this just like check, 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 but say check with a little bit of gusto in your microphone because you're going to sing louder than you talk. Kind of get yourself set so you know you can hear yourself clearly. And then as we start a song, then you can start to add in the pieces that you need to hear. So we obviously need some keys in this. Like that. A little bit of acoustic.
So good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Okay.
And I love your voice. You have led
Okay, I can kind of hear the drums, so we're going to add a little bit of drums in here to make sure we can hear.
Darkest night, you are close like no other.
And I might want just a little more volume overall, so I'm going to turn this master up just a little bit.
I've known you as a friend, and I
Should have said this at the beginning, if I didn't say it. You need to watch this video with headphones, otherwise this is not going to do any good, because we're going to talk about panning, and you really need to hear this stuff in the context of in-ear monitors. So if you've got your in-ears and you're not using them, pause this video, get your headphones, get them plugged in, otherwise some of this is not going to make any sense. Continuing.
I have lived in the goodness of God.
Okay.
And all my life you have been faithful.
So that's a pretty good starting point. At this point, I can't hear like what the electric guitars are doing really. For vocalists, if you're not moved by the electric guitar, I would say you don't need to have those really pumping. You really need to be relying on your acoustic and your keys.
And all my life you have been so good.
That way you know you can hear the chord structure, you get a little bit of rhythmic content from the acoustic, and then your click and your drums, also important to kind of hear where you're at. As a bare minimum, those are the things that you really need to hear, aside from the other vocalists for harmony reasons. I think sometimes we fall into the trap of like, everything's got to be really present and in my face so I can hear it all. And the reality is we can't hear everything at once. Generally speaking, you can only listen to 3 things at one time. And so if you're going to put drums, bass, acoustic, keys, electric, 1 and 2, 4 vocals, the loop, the click, you're not going to actually be able to listen to all of those at once. You're going to start picking and choosing and listening to individual things and kind of tuning other things out. So kind of hone in on the things that you need to hear as a vocalist for chord structure and to know where your melody is. As instrumentalists, we kind of have to hear the other instruments so that we can play well together. Just as a quick example, my mix as a drummer and an instrumentalist would be more something in this vein. So, for real, this is how my mix usually sounds. So you'll note how quiet the vocals are. It's mostly myself and the drums, like, so I can really hear those, and then I just kind of put the instruments in there with me. I'll actually get into a backbeat here. So as an instrumentalist, I do this because it cuts down on how much noise there is, because the vocalists are picking up a lot of the room and stuff that's going on. But I really want to play really solidly with the band and with the click and groove with them. So if someone does not actually sing lead on something, I won't even put them in my headphones. So let's say, for example, Nate actually led a song on This Morning. He's in vocal 3. But if he didn't, if all he did was sing harmony, I would probably basically turn him down so you can't hear him. Because I can't listen to all of that stuff at once and play with the things that I need to hear. So you need to be able to hear what the vocalist is doing. You need to be able to hear if they call something out. Deb might be a teeny bit on the quiet side. This also is the importance of having good in-ears. Mine are really efficient, so even though Deb is really quiet, I can still hear her clearly in the mix. She's just not the prominent feature. So for all of us, I would encourage you to prioritize the things that you actually need to hear, and maybe get away from trying to make everything sound exactly like a CD. Because that can be really difficult as a guitar player or a drummer. If the vocal is as loud as it would be on a recording, you're not hearing yourself and the other instruments as clearly as you might need to. So the next thing we're going to talk about with building a mix is how to use stereo placement and the importance of that. So we have a few things that are in stereo, 4 total. We have drums, keys, electric 1 and electric 2. If you don't really understand stereo versus mono, take my word for it and just set all of these to full width stereo placement. I talked about this in the how to use this video. You select the spread button and you can change how wide or narrow the sound is of a stereo signal. Panning these full width is going to leave a lot of room in the middle for things like the vocals, the bass, the acoustic. So what I'm going to do, what we were just listening to in the previous bit here was a stereo mix where I had these all pushed full wide. I'm going to hit play, and this might loop through as we do this. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to adjust the mix a little bit so we can more clearly hear the vocals, and then I am going to change the adjustment on the stereo inputs to mono. I'm going to move them to the center. Again, you will not hear the difference really unless you're using headphones. Okay? Okay, full stereo mix. We're going to take stuff down to mono here. I mean, I can't really hear the keys anymore now that I did that. Okay, it's going to loop back here. Fully mono. I can't hear the keys anymore. The vocals are fighting with the electric guitars. Okay, back to stereo. I can hear all the pieces again. Back to mono. No volume change, just mono versus stereo. Back to stereo. So you can hear how much of a difference there is in like how clearly things come through. The vocals just sit within the guitars and the drums so much better than in the mono example. So very important, spread the stereo inputs out to make room in the middle for the things that are not stereo, that being the vocals, acoustic, bass, loop, and the click and the cues. The other thing you can do, which is helpful, is things that are mono, like the vocals. You can actually shift them a little bit left and right. So if I'm the vocalist, I want to leave myself in the center, but as a vocalist it can be really helpful to push the other vocalists a little bit left and right so that you can hear what they're doing without like detracting and competing with your voice in the middle. So if we hit play here, I'm going to push Nate a little further. Now I can actually turn Nate down a little bit more. But I can still hear him because he's over here more. And he's not competing in the center for the room in the middle with the main vocal. As an instrumentalist, I don't push things quite that extreme, but you heard I keep my vocals quite a bit quieter. You can do that with like the acoustic. You can bump him a little bit left or right. I usually do it based on where they're at on the stage and like my vision. The bass guitar is another one that I don't pan. Generally bass comes from one location, and it doesn't really compete with other things in the mix, maybe besides the kick drum, but not really. So that would be one that I leave centered. Same with the talkback, MD microphone, I leave that in the middle. You could push that one way or the other if it would be helpful for you to like really pick up on like, whoa, yeah, they're talking to me over there. The loop I also leave in the middle. It's just a mono thing. And then the click and the cues, same. If you had the violin or cellos and things like that in these miscellaneous channels, you could pan them a little bit left and right to get some separation there. So panning is really important and useful. You can hear in the example of just like how much clearer stuff is when you have the stereo spread of the stereo instruments. So do that, push things wider, and I assure you it will help with your mixes. Well, I hope that this is helpful to get a little bit of philosophy on how to do this. Some things to keep in mind is be careful to fall into the trap of just turning things up more when you need to hear them. Oftentimes when I come to help people because they're having a hard time on a Thursday, they're like, oh, I just keep like turning myself up and I can't hear myself. That's usually because there's other things that are too loud, and that is why I have created the setting on the dump channel that kind of turns everything down and gives you a good starting point. What's happened before is you walk in and the last person had things all sorts of crazy, and then you just come in and you try to turn yourself up, your vocal, just to turn it up on top of the really loud band. That's not helpful, because then you're just going to be fighting the whole time. So it's best to recall that setting on the dump channel, and then get yourself set at the volume that you can hear yourself clearly, and then turn the instruments and other peripheral things up to taste, so that you can have a nice balanced mix. Reminder of the trim control: if you do start running into issues where you're running out of volume on an input that you need to hear, you can trim all, which turns down all of the channels evenly, and then you can turn your master up a little bit and then turn up that thing that you needed a little more volume out of. So I hope this is helpful. As always, if you have more questions, you guys know where to find me. You can shoot me an email. We can talk on a Thursday. The other thing I'll say is, like, this does take a little bit of practice. I mean, you're kind of being a sound person for yourself. You're kind of running sound. And if I've learned anything in the time that I've been doing this, like, this is something that just takes a little bit of practice and takes some time. But I'm more than happy to try to coach you guys, and I hope some of these changes will help make this a little bit of an easier experience. Thanks for watching.